This episode is brought to you by Room 11. Room 11 is a premier private fan club built for creators, artists, and public figures to connect directly with their audience. Room 11 allows creators to earn money through subscriptions, tips, live streams, exclusive content, and even one-on-one video chats. Check out room11.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Bridget, for joining us.
Yes.
You know how much this means to me. Last time, you guys got me a Starbucks. And
yes.
So I, of course, offered, but it looks like you got your pink.
I have my
thing.
water. You know what? I've been noticing that drinking a second coffee during the day makes me very jittery sometimes. Yeah. Or, I just feel a little bit shaky and sometimes a little bit nauseous. So I'm like,
3 coffees and people were telling me to stop. But I was like, I want to be ready for this because that's how I cope. Some people drink a whiskey before a podcast. Oh, I just drink so much. But I wanted to dig in. Are you okay with digging in real quick?
Dig in.
Okay. So I was thinking, I was talking to my father and he said, this was a long time ago.
I was going to say, yeah. When were you doing this?
So he said, your mother married me for financial security and to have children. And I was thinking about what he was offering people at the mansion. And it felt like he was offering them an escape and a sense of safety. And I was wondering, what does Bridget want in life? And I was wondering if you joined, if you went up there looking for an escape, a kind of place to be yourself.
No, not at first. Mm-hmm. I went there solely with the purpose of wanting to be a playmate. Mm-hmm. I moved to LA wanting to be a playmate. I was like, oh, well, of course I can't just center on that. I'll dabble in entertainment industry, try out on auditions and things like commercials and things as well. Mm-hmm. But my sole purpose was I want to be a playmate so bad. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do that ever since I was little. And honestly, Hef and his lifestyle, I didn't even it didn't even occur to me for most of the time that it was intertwined in a lot of ways with becoming a playmate. So I wasn't even looking at Hef or his lifestyle. I was like, oh, that's fun, that's cute, whatever, the girls looked all beautiful and everything. But that's not what I'm trying to do. In fact, the first time he called me to invite me out, I was like, oh God, no. I never occurred to me to want to be a girlfriend or go out with you guys because I've heard stories about I told him that I've heard stories and that's not me. And I was technically still married at that time. We were separated because I was living in LA and he was in Northern California. But I was like, I'm here because I'm hanging out at the mansion and I'm coming here because I really want to be a playmate. Mm. And he was like, oh, that's okay. I totally understand. He was very nice about it. And then I kept coming up on Sundays and, networking and getting to know people. And I just felt like, you know what, that was a really cool opportunity that I might have missed out on. And I would love to see what that's all about. And yeah, I've heard stories, but I don't know if they're true or whatever. So I'm going to, maybe I'll see if I could still go out. Nobody's going to make me do anything I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to try it. And love that. I wrote Heffa. It actually happened to be Cinco de Mayo, and they had just shown the night before a Carmen Miranda movie at the mansion on Saturday night. And on Sunday, I showed up to Fun in the Sun dressed as Carmen Miranda. I had the full fruit thing on the head and the outfit, the bikini top and stuff. And I came with a sombrero, and I had little alcohol shots for all the girls and little margarita glasses and everything. And I was passing these little drink packages out to all the girls. And then I got to Hef, and I gave him a Jack Daniels one and a note, and it said, if the offer still stands, I'd really love to come out with you and your girls. And he got up and he gave me what we always called the big laugh and a hug. We took photos, and he said, I'd love to have you come out with us. And Monday morning, right away, I got a call from the office saying, what are you doing Wednesday night? Hef would like you here by, I forget what time it was, 9:30 or something like that in the Great Hall.
For people who don't know, my father loved Jack Daniels. And he didn't drink it too much, but I know what that means to him, for you to pass that thoughtful gift to him.
Jack Daniels and Pepsi. And even though he was drinking it a lot, it's such a little amount of Jack in it, and he was always topping it off with a Pepsi. Mm-hmm. So the amount of alcohol he was actually intaking was probably so minimal.
So just to look at your life now, and it feels like you love ghosts. You have a
My
ghost
baggie,
bag.
Yes.
And yet, people love the girls next door. And they love the girls next level. And they love you and Holly. And I personally love listening to you and Holly. And I'm just thinking, like, there is so much more to Bridget than just the girls next door. There's your interest in ghosts. There's your interest in travel. And I feel a little bit akin to you in this, where people want to see the mansion life. They want to see me and my dad. But I love writing. I love reading. And how do you navigate that world of what the market wants, what the audience wants, but also making what you love so successful and interesting?
Yeah, it's tough because, like you said, not everybody wants to see you doing what you love. They want to see you what they think you should be doing. And so for me, I feel like I have a really sweet spot right now because I'm doing two things that I love, really. I really love doing the rewatch podcast with Holly. I like spending that much time with Holly, like we used to spend so much time together, like, because, you know, everybody gets busy in life, and there was a time frame where we stayed in contact. We were texting all the time, but we weren't seeing each other like we do now. So now it gives us an excuse to see each other all the time. We just did an epic photo shoot yesterday that I'm so excited about. Like, we get to shoot, like, you know, photos together again.
Make it fun in the slumber parties. Like, I want to join that Patreon slumber party time. Like, let's see the girls do a slumber party.
Yeah,
like,
we try to just have fun with it. But the ghost stuff is like a passion of mine, and it's been something that I even I feel like I just have to bring it in and incorporate it because it is such a part of my life. So even on Girls Next Door, like, I was like, oh, I love ghosts and stuff. I want to do ghost things. And we had the paranormal investigators come to the mansion, which I was shocked Hef let me do. And they followed a little bit of that. And that was before any of these ghost shows or anything going on. So so I incorporated it that way. And then even before we started doing the Girls Next Level podcast, I already had a paranormal podcast that I had been doing. And so now on the show, like, Holly is into it a little bit now too. So like we have stayed on the Queen Mary and done slumber parties there. And so I just try and incorporate it. I think I'm lucky too, though, because Girls Next Door and Girls Next Level and Ghosts is truly who I am. It's not, even though they're jobs, it's not a job for me because this is who I am. I'm just talking about me and the things that I love and what we went through and our experiences. And for the ghost podcast, I'm learning from other people, and we're sharing ghost stories and places and locations and all kinds of things like that. So I feel like I'm lucky in the fact that my job is me.
So I have a question. How did you get into this love of ghosts?
No, I tell people I think I was born spooky. From the youngest age, I always loved scary movies, spooky stories. Like, I just loved all of it. And my parents didn't care that I was watching horror movies. Like, they're just like, whatever, you better go to sleep tonight. So I would have like slumber parties, and my cousins come over and make them watch scary movies with me and scare them to death. And I also was babysat at a really young age. And I saved up my babysitting money, and I bought myself a Ouija. And then I had my cousin come over, and we had the Ouija board, and we were playing it, and I was only like 12, and my cousin was she's about 2 years younger than me, so she's about 10, and we don't really know that many people that had passed away. So the only person that I actually knew that had died was my great-grandfather. And so, like, let's reach out to him. So we're supposedly talking to him, but I'm accusing her of moving the planchette. She's accusing me of moving it. And eventually we just get bored with it. Hey, you're moving it. No, you're moving it. Okay, whatever. Blah. We don't want to play anymore. And the board was on. We were sitting like Indian style. The board was on the floor in between us. And when we got done playing, my cousin had these like three X's engraved into her leg. Almost like she had been kneeling on something that made these marks. But it freaked her out so bad. I remember we went to the movies later in the day, and she was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and see if those X's are still on my leg. Like, she felt like it was like a sign. So that's what happened to her, and she literally went the other direction than me. She's so scared of all of this stuff, and she in fact, I had the Winchester house like to myself to film in overnight. And I invited her and her sister and my aunt and my mom and stuff to come, and she was like, I'll drop you guys off.
I'm hearing something really important for creators who are building their brand, which is be yourself and show what you love, and don't maybe don't think of it as a strategy as much as it is just showing people what your life is, and what your life is what you care about. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that you will be the most successful when you're doing something that you love, and it feels like it doesn't feel like a job to you. And I also feel like people can tell when you're being your true, authentic self versus being something for the cameras.
Oh my God, I hate to interrupt you, but what you just said resonates. Because when I listen to you guys, it's two girls having fun.
Yeah.
Two ladies having fun. I love that.
Yeah, it's almost like I just kind of, I mean, I do play to the camera every once in a while, and I'll like give it a look, like, did you just hear that? Like, are you guys listening to this or whatever, this weird thing? But for the most part, it's just Holly and I having a conversation that we would have in the car on the way to something, or sitting around at one of our houses.
And then I feel like production helps a lot too. Like, you guys are riffing, and yet you're riffing in a beautiful room with nice lighting, and it's like we're a part of this place.
Well, that's new for us. Like, we started out just doing it sitting on the floor in Holly's living room, like trying to figure it all out ourselves. Like, okay, here's a light, we'll just set this up, and we'll just use the laptop camera. Like, that's how we started, just doing that. And then we graduated and we went into our dining room, and we made it into like our own little studio with some like cameras out and stuff. And then we finally got a studio. But it was a very, us doing everything ourselves, and then it's hard to like kind of give other people control. And it was a tough transition to move into a studio setting, because then we felt a little bit awkward at first, and we were very conscious of there's people sitting in the other room that are listening to this. Like, before it was just her and I, and everything could be edited before anyone ever heard it. But now there's like an audience in the other room, and like, are they thinking this is boring? Are they thinking that was a weird thing to say? Are they thinking that was a rude thing to say? Like, what are they? And we started worrying about like what they're thinking in the other room.
What did you do then?
We just talked about it, and we just decided that we can't think about that, and that we just have to continue like normal. But I feel like the first couple episodes after moving into the studio, it was a little bit of a transition.
I think it's so awesome that you and Holly have remained such close friends over all these years. And the fact that y'all have like done this show together, and now you're doing a new show together, I think that's so amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad too, because we were really close at the mansion, and thank God we had each other, because there were times where things were, really bad with the other girls and lots of drama and everything. And then there's times when things are amazing, and you want to share that with somebody that you really like and have fun with.
It must have been such a crazy experience living in a house with so many women, and I feel like, it's cool that you guys stayed close and there wasn't any drama.
Some of it's trauma bonding, and some of it is not trauma, just like really great times too. But like, some of them are like the most amazing experiences of our lives.
Yes.
So you're experiencing both ends of it at the same time.
I have a question for you to dig a little deeper. So we've heard Kendra say, you can kind of revise this for me, but this is my understanding. She kind of regrets being at the mansion, and she wishes she didn't do it. And I think you and Holly and Kendra all have different perspectives, but her view was, I'm 40 I now, and I did some things that I wish I hadn't done, and people are upset by that, and I don't know why. I don't know why it's hard for people to understand that someone at 20 years old can find themselves in a situation that maybe they didn't know they were getting into or whatever, and then they look back on it, and it's just one person saying, I wish I hadn't done that. I don't get why that's like a spicy take on anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's unfortunate that she feels that way now, because I feel like we did have a lot of great times there, and I feel like a lot of the drama was over by the time she got there, so I feel like her time was even better than Holly and I. But in a lot of ways, it's shared too. So I think it's too bad that she feels that way. I wish that she could be happy about it and realize all of the good things that came out of it, and just be like, it was fun and that was amazing. What I think is going on with Kendra is she just wants to move on and stop being labeled as that. And Holly went through that phase for a little while too. personally, I've always embraced it. I'm like, Playboy, I was all about it, and I finally got it, and I'm still proud of it. I'm like, I'll go pose again tomorrow. Like, I've always been it's something I'm very proud of still. So I think everybody just has a different take on it. And there was a time where Holly also was like, I just want to not have the Playboy label. I want to get out from this. I want to do other things. I'm tired of being labeled as Hef's ex-girlfriend or the girls next door or part of a Playboy bunny or whatever. And I think that's what Kendra's going through right now. And I feel like, I hate to say it because maybe things are different now, but I feel like we will never escape that. It's always something you just have to embrace now because it happened. It was a big deal. A lot of people were fans of it. And I just don't think that you're ever going to fully escape that. So you might as well just embrace it. And let it enrich your life rather than being something you're trying to avoid and run from and put down.
Sink into the cold shower, as they say. Just dig into it and embrace it.
Yeah.
What was one of your favorite experiences during that chapter? Or when the show came on, did that change the dynamic?
Absolutely. Yeah. So everything changed when the show happened. And all of a sudden we were like so many opportunities. Sky was the limit because the show was filming it. So like the crazier, the more outlandish, the more glamorous, everything was on the table. So definitely, not that there wasn't things like that beforehand, but it was very much Hef's life and only, when he was invited to go somewhere or whatever. And this just opened up everything, and the opportunities got even individualized for us, and so yeah, that changed everything. But to pick one favorite thing, it would be so hard. I mean, from travel, even just like, smaller things like going to the Queen Mary and the backstage access we got, or like events that we got invited to or got to host, like being up on stage for the Billboard Awards, and there's just so many things. The show was a lot of my personality, style. It's kind of my, I look back on that and I think, yeah, that was my life. Like, that was really me. I'm not acting. Like, that was amazing. That was fun. I really wanted to do that. I planned that. I did this. I did that. And Holly has like kind of a different take where she sort of looks at it like, well, I was sort of in this relationship and I don't know how happy I was. So she has that going on, and that she was not letting her real true personality come out. And then Kendra kind of looks back on it and was like, I didn't want to do all those stupid things. I didn't like all those things. I was acting. I was that and this and that. So
like Kendra was acting to me when I knew her, when I was talking to her.
Like she didn't enjoy, like I've heard her complain that she didn't like doing the things that we were doing, like the doggy birthday parties, and didn't want to participate. And she felt like she was being pushed to have to do these things that she thought were dumb, and having to act like she enjoyed it. I remember an episode where she
slept in. There was the golf. Do you remember the golf episode? And she was supposed to be there at 9 a.m. and she got there at 11 a.m. But the fact that she didn't want to go made the episode so much funnier.
That was everyday life. Kendra was late.
Well, so tell us, what are you doing now? What would you say a day in the life looks like?
Oh gosh, that's tough because every day is just sort of different. I mean, every day I start out coffee and emails, then I work out 7 days a week, and then my day starts after that. Shower, get ready, and then, like I said, each day is different. So whether it's out running errands or running off to the studio to record with Holly, or I have Ghost Bunny podcasts lined up, which I do from home typically. So yeah, every day's different. I'm also working on my memoir right now. I turned in the first 5 chapters, and then they want one more from Playboy times, because the first 5 is just me kind of getting there. So one more for later on to pitch it and stuff. So
very cool.
We're working on it.
Yeah, I read Holly's memoir, loved it. So I'm looking forward to reading yours, of course. Do you have any tips on creators who, want to build something and put their voice out into the world and have an audience?
I mean, I think what I was saying earlier, it's being something that is truly authentic to you, something that you love, and then trying to find what makes you different by doing that. For instance, for me, there's a lot of paranormal podcasts out there and stuff. So what makes it different? Well, one, it's me. So it's my personality. It's my, take on things. But 2, I also feel like there's not a lot of women, for one, but there's also not a lot of girly girls out there, love pink and girly things, but are also ghost hunting. It's almost like you have to be like goth and dark to do it and stuff. And I'm trying to say you don't have to be. So I feel like finding your path that's a little bit different, and you find that by looking into yourself and like what makes you, what makes you different than everybody else.
And then public facing that, right? Would that be a part of it?
Yeah, it's part of the whole branding of it. Like, so, you know, anytime I put stuff out, it's still very girly. It's very, there's pink fonts, there's like, you know, but we're talking about ghosts and paranormal stuff and everything.
So, do you stay in haunted hotels?
Much as possible. Sometimes I get a little bit scared if something happens, but that's part of what keeps me coming back. It's like the adrenaline.
Now, did I hear that there was a ghost in the mansion?
Yes. And so let's see, how does it start? Well, Holly had an experience before I was even there, or at least in her early days. I think it was before I was there in the gym. But my first experience, well, actually, before my first real experience, there was little things that would happen, like my TV would change channels on its own, and I wouldn't think anything of it. Like, I'd be watching probably like some paranormal show on TV. I'd always have those things going, and then all of a sudden my TV would be on like a basketball game or something like that. I'm like, that's so weird. And it was always just on in the background, so I wasn't really paying that much attention, so I didn't think too much of it then. But one day, Holly was in my room, and we were scrapbooking on the floor. My TV was on just in the background. And she was like, you know, we were talking about ghosts and stuff. And she's like, you know, I would love to believe in that stuff, but I just don't. I think I just haven't had an experience. And all of a sudden, the volume on my TV went to full blast. And we're like looking for the remote, and it was sitting on my bed. I thought, you know what? Maybe upstairs in the audio video department, maybe they can control my TV somehow. So I'm going to ask them if they're like maybe accidentally doing this or something. And I went up, and John was like laughing. He's like, what are you talking about? I don't have any control of your TV from up here. So that was doing it on its own. But the biggest thing that happened to me is it was the day I had gone to North Carolina to visit my brother. The camera, a producer came with and filmed a little bit. And on the way home, we had a layover in Georgia, and I got my dog Wednesday. And I brought her home, and my sister was with me, and it was a Sunday, it was after dinner and a movie. And I had set up like a little pin at the end of my bed, like on the floor, of course, and all her things in there. And she was just like a little tiny puppy and sound asleep in there. My sister was sitting next to me on the bed. Stacy was like laying across the end of the bed. And we were just having a glass of wine. I was telling her all about our trip that we had just taken. And the doorway to go into the closet and the bathroom was like on my right over here. And nothing, it just goes to the closet and the bathroom. Like, there's no exit out of that doorway. And all of a sudden, all three of us saw a woman standing in the I will say I saw a woman standing in the doorway. My sister and Stacy didn't look long enough to even know what it was, but they saw something in the doorway. Because my sister, like, everybody had a reaction. Like, I went, because it's startling to see somebody, and then Stacy goes, oh my God, 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 what was that? What was that? I'm afraid to look, I'm afraid to look, I'm afraid to look. And my sister just started like crying. She like pulled the covers over her head, and she was like, oh my God, and like freaking out, but all three of us saw it.
That there's like a connection that you have to the other world. Like,
that's what Barry Taft said.
Like if you're open to it, then it's gonna like open up the gates of the underworld, and like they're gonna visit you.
That's what Barry Taft said. He said that I was most likely a conduit for it because I was open to it happening, so it happens. You know who I think it was? I'll give you a description, see, because I did this to Brian Olay. I gave him the description, and I'm like, who do you think it was? And he guessed it instantly. So she was not a Victorian ghost like so many people think all ghosts are Victorian. She was like a more modern day ghost. She was wearing black, like acid wash jeans, a white oversized t-shirt.
Oh, I know who. Oh God, it's so creepy.
She was very, very thin.
Oh, I know. Oh, I'm gonna cry. It's
pale.
So scary. Joni.
Yes.
Oh,
see, I didn't even have
God.
to finish. I didn't even have to finish with my description.
Who's Joannie?
She had already passed away by the time I was living there, but a few years before I started living in the mansion, I actually tested in San Francisco, and they called me up and said, we think you have Playmate potential, want to fly you out here. So I stayed at the mansion for 3 days back in like 1998. And while I was there, I came up for dinner, and Joni was in the med room, and we stayed up way late talking one night. And I really liked her, really hit it off, and she was like, I think I'm going to be seeing you around a lot. And then I didn't get it. And then a couple years later, I moved back to the mansion, only to find out that she had passed away. And it was her.
You know that there's a myth of like the swamp woman or something. It's cross-cultural, and she has black hair, and she visits you when you're sleeping, but you're in a sleep/wakeful state. Do you think it was her, or you think it was Joni?
I think it was Joni. She was one of Hef's social secretaries.
Yeah, no, the black-haired woman I get visited by
I think
her.
you told me that. That's kind of spooky. It wasn't like a frightening thing. I never saw her again. I think it was her. I know there was a podcast recently, and they had a butler on, and they said, we heard the mansion is haunted, and he's like, no, that's not true. It's not haunted. And I'm like, just because, I mean, I wasn't on the podcast, but I'm thinking in my head, just because you never had an experience somewhere does not mean something is not haunted.
Agreed.
And I just want that out there.
Have a favorite mansion memory? Like, I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but...
Yeah, I think my favorite memory is just like hanging out in my room, and like my room was kind of like the social hub. Like all the girls would come and vent or hang out or have a glass of wine or watch like the party footage from the night before or have snacks, or like it was always just like the room. It's where we got ready for all the parties. That's really fun mansion memories.
Do you have a second favorite mansion memory? No, I'm joking.
I do. Yeah. There's little things that are like kind of favorite memories that just like pop out of nowhere. Like for instance, the mansion's very busy, and like there's parking is very limited there and stuff. And we made our little parking signs, like it said reserved for Bridget.
Now, did I hear you were a tour guide at the mansion?
Yeah, and typically we take turns doing it. And yeah, so they would give us the mansion pads of paper to give out to people, the matches, and Playboy waters. So we'd have that all set up when they got there, and we'd dress in our bunny costume, and the people would show up, and we would give them the full tour of the mansion and their little souvenirs to take with them. A woman named Charlotte, who used to work in scrapbooking, she's the one that used to do them, but we were like, we want to do them. So yeah, we learned all the history, and yeah, we just take turns doing them.
Wait to hear your take on this. So I bought a home.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
And I bought it, and I was like, this is going to be it. I've made it. And I bought it, and then like when I bought it, I was like, what have I done? Can't believe I bought this home. Like, this is so not what I thought happiness was. And it just made me realize, like, happiness isn't in the biggest home, whoever has the biggest home. Have you ever had that feeling where you reach a goal and you thought that would be it, but then you realize that maybe like loving ghosts is like your vibe?
Many things. So I'm always revising my goal list, because as soon as like when we made it in the magazine and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, so what's next? Like now what? You made this big goal. So yeah, I'm always revising it and being like, okay, so we did that, check. What's next?
Is the memoir your next big check?
That's been on my list for a while. It's hard. It's a hard thing. I thought it would be easier. I had already written a lot of it before, and then I kind of chickened out on it, and then there was interest in it, and then I submitted it, and then I didn't hear back right away, so I thought people weren't interested, and so I was like, I think there's just too many stories out there already on this, and people maybe aren't interested so much anymore. But then all of a sudden there was like a flush the other way. So that's where we're at right now, and I'm going full speed ahead at the moment. It's been an interesting process because, like I said, I kind of wrote a lot of it a long time ago, and now that I'm bringing it back out, before I turn anything in, I'm obviously going through each chapter, and I'm finding like all of a sudden I'm opening up way more, and I'm adding all these other little stories that I just either didn't think of before or didn't think were important before, and now I'm realizing like their bigger relevance in the whole story later. Like even stuff from as a kid and stuff, I'm like, oh, well, this was probably like what made me, still want to be doing, like thinking about Playboy, even as a kid and stuff. Like different stories are coming out that I'm like, oh, wow.
How do you do that? How do you go to your childhood and write about it?
I think your head just has to be in the right space because, like I said, I wrote it before and I feel like it was good. But when I went back to add to it, all of a sudden, all these like way more interesting stories I feel like started coming out. And they're not like big things, but I feel like it molds it more complete, makes it a more complete picture now. And there's stories that I just didn't even think to tell before. So I think sometimes, I'm sure you feel this way as a writer. Like sometimes I go because I feel like, okay, I need to get that chapter to them. So I have to write. And I'll sit there and I'll be like, okay, this is okay. I don't know. And there's other days, and I might even just be like on the Peloton, like cycling away. And all of a sudden, like all these ideas will start flowing. And so you just have to be in the right state of mind and like
100%.
Feeling it. And you don't know when that's going to happen. So you just have to kind of like take the opportunity when it's there and be like, oh, here we go. It's there. Sometimes like I'll try and talk into my phone when that's happening. Even if I'm on the Peloton, I'll be huffing and puffing. I'll be like, oh, and then I went here and I did this. And I'm trying to tell it because I feel like in my head it's coming out so perfect, like the way I'd want to tell that story.
You love ghosts. It sounds like you love writing too, which makes me happy. Do you ever feel like you wish you could just pursue these passions without doing the public facing? Because when I hear you, it's like, it sounds like you just embrace the public part of life. Like, I want to be a playmate. I want to be, and you love it. And
it's funny. I'm yes and no on the public part of it. I'm terrible at social media. Like, I don't like letting people know what I'm doing all the time. I don't care that they know that I had a hamburger for lunch or that I'm going home for the weekend or like whatever. Like, I don't even care. So I post like the bare minimum, what I feel like I have to post for my podcast and stuff. And I don't. So on that front, I don't love like the social part of it.
Same.
And I don't love doing press necessarily.
We're doing press!
But see, I don't mind. Well, see, that's interesting too because like there's some podcasts where I'm super excited. Like the other day I did 2 Girls, 1 Ghost. Yesterday, actually. So much fun. The hour went by like that. And I'm like, how's it over already? That was so much fun. I could talk to them all day long about ghosts. Yeah. And like, this is fun. Like, I feel like I know. I mean, not feel like I know you. Like, I know you and
course,
stuff. And like, but then there's other press that's not so fun.
Well, here, what do you think about this? You're with Holly and you love Holly. And so you're having guests on who you genuinely enjoy, or are there ever moments that you have a guest on and it's like, I'm going to be a professional?
Oh, no. It's all people that, like, playmates, that butlers, like, people that we, like, love. On my Ghost Bunny podcast, oftentimes these are people I'm meeting for the first time, but we share this love of ghosts. And so how serious and professional do you have to be? So it's a little bit more buttoned up, I guess, but not buttoned up at all.
I've done the writing for so long, and I just kind of assumed that people would know that I was doing it. And it just occurred to me that it's like, unless I explicitly say to social media, hey, I'm a writer and this is what I care about, then like people, like my fans don't know that I care about it, sort of thing.
Yes.
And at the same time, it's like my favorite thing is just like curling up to a book, and so there's those two things that are happening like in our world when we're building a brand.
Yeah. And it's like you have to be repetitive with it. Like I've been saying since, for me, way before Girls Next Door, but publicly since Girls Next Door, how much I love ghosts and stuff. And people are still like, wait, that girl has a ghost show? Just ghost stuff? Like, people still don't know. People still don't know that Holly and I are doing the Girls Next Level podcast, that are just finding out about it each day. They'll be like, oh, I just heard about this podcast. It's just repetition and getting it out there and constantly.
Love about your podcast is how bubbly and happy you guys are. Is that just like you wake up and you drink 50 coffees and you go to work and you do it? Like, how do you do that?
I'm genuinely happy to be there. I'm genuinely happy to spend time with Holly. We genuinely have like a good time together and like riff off of each other. And I spend a couple of hours watching each episode and making meticulous notes on everything. So while I'm doing that, thinking about like any tangents that kind of go with this, because I feel like that's kind of what makes it fun. If we just sat there and then Kendra went here and then I went there and then you said this and you said, it makes it a little bit boring and stale. But if you have tangents like, oh my gosh, I just saw this thing on there and remember that time time that one guy, oh, sorry guys, this has nothing to do with the podcast, but remember that time that one guy went and did like, and then we start laughing about that. And so I feel like that keeps it fresh and fun and conversational. And
I had a question for you. What's your favorite holiday? And is it Halloween or is it
absolutely.
Christmas?
I love all the holidays and even like random ones. And I like dressing up and decorating for them or celebrating in some random way. And I love Christmas, no doubt about it. And I'll go all out decorating and I'll do all the things, cookies and wrapping, and I love all of it. But Halloween is by far my favorite.
Was my father a good boyfriend?
A
good one.
I guess that depends. It depends.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pros and cons. So somebody that doesn't trust you enough and needs you to have a 9 o'clock curfew, somebody that, you have to ask permission just to go home and see your family or to a funeral or things like that. Like, I feel like those are very negative things. But there's a lot of positives, too. He definitely, gave us a very secure, well, I say that and then I walk it back. In a lot of ways, a very secure situation, but at the same time, sort of walking on eggshells, like tomorrow you could be on, if somebody said something or something happened, tomorrow you could be on the street. So there was a sense of like security and stuff there, but also not at the same time.
I totally understand what you're saying, because there was that thing that Crystal said about the animals being so poorly maintained, and everybody said, well, why didn't you say something about it? And what you're getting at is you couldn't do that with him sometimes. It's not like you could just be like, oh, it's going to be my way. It wasn't anybody's way but his way.
It's only his way, and it's only his schedule. And even though there was a sense of security, like he took care of a lot of things for us, and we have a room and that kind of thing. At any point he could be like, okay, well, I think I didn't like that you did that, so tomorrow I want you out. So there's always that going on. And even with Girls Next Door, they would tell us, well, you're replaceable.
What you're saying is such a miracle that look at where you are now. Look at what you did with the Girls Next Door. Look at how far you've come with all of the could-haves.
Yeah, but I don't want to leave it on just the negatives.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of positives. Like, he's very boyish and fun. So even though people are like, oh my gosh, he was 78 or 80 or whatever, how could you be that? But he didn't feel that way when you're around him. He was fun, and I liked the schedule. I liked watching the old movies. I liked the new movies on Sundays. I liked Fun in the Sun. I liked playing game night. I liked going out to the clubs when we went out to the clubs. I liked all the girls that came and visited. I liked so much about living at the mansion, and I feel like when we were there, and I could be wrong, but Holly and I have talked about this on the podcast before, I really felt like Hef, especially during the Girls Next Door era, was genuinely happy. Like, he seemed giddy at points. And that was so fun, that he was like having such a great time, and he was so happy, it felt to me, and content in the relationship with the three of us. And
what a message to send to people who are following their passion and trying to build something, is that he was one of the happiest people I know. Always that way.
Yeah, and talk about somebody who like had a passion and did it and didn't care what people thought, and just like followed through on it and made a huge success, and that's inspiring to me.
100%.
So there was a lot of positives, and always there's some negatives too, but I mean, I think that's every relationship. They're just different.
What was it like being one of 3 girlfriends?
It felt, and this is going to sound so strange, but it felt very normal and natural to me. It felt normal and natural, and like the three of us got along for the most part, and it just sort of did seem like this weird untraditional family. And like a sisterhood, sort of, but not sisters.
That's what I loved so much about my father and about you and Holly, is that we all embrace like the untraditional. We kind of just like do what we love and do what we believe in. And my father did that, and it was normal to him. It was natural for him.
Funny that you say that, though, because we all love the untraditional, but it's also there's so much tradition in all of it. And he did like to keep a lot of like traditional stuff going on. So there's like a weird like mix of the two things.
Christmas and Halloween's and maybe sometimes Valentine's Days and
Thanksgiving.
and the
Yeah.
black and white films on Fridays. He loved classic Hollywood and classic holidays and things that brightened people's lives.
Yeah, so there was a lot of traditional things, but also everything was very untraditional at the same time. So
So you guys go way back. So when did you guys meet?
Oh my
just
God,
a baby.
I was so little, and Bridget, this was my memory. Bridget was just kind of putting up with me, teenager running around, and Bridget
Younger
was,
than a teenager, I think, because
Yeah.
I started going there in, like, staying there in 2002.
Yeah, so I was like 12, 11. I was just making a mess of things, being a rowdy kid, and I don't know. Yeah, we would go to Disneyland together, and
Yeah, there
we
were
did
a few
things.
outings, like the Christmas lights and like you said, Disneyland. You guys would be over for the holidays. You guys would just be out the mansion playing around too a lot. I tried not to be too involved. Like they're, has kids and we're like girlfriends, and like I don't know. I didn't like. There's sort of like there's no rules about anything, but it was sort of like this weird unspoken dynamic and stuff. I thought, let them have their time with Hef alone. Like they don't need me or any of us like around family night at the mansion.
It did feel very separated, those lives. Like my father going to clubs and doing the girlfriend thing, and then like when my dad and I would do family night, it felt separate. But there were nice times too when we all came together for Disneyland or something.
Yeah, and it's not like we were kept separate. We'd have some conversation or interaction, but there was always like a separation of some sort. Like, and I felt like for me I was trying to be respectful of your mom and that you guys are just kids, and I don't know what you guys know or are thinking of all of it, and Hef having time alone with you guys and you guys being able to have that time with him. So for me it was all just more about respect, and that's none of my business. I'm gonna stay out of that.
So yeah, I guess as a father, it was always tough to see him going out with you guys to the movies and stuff. And I remember talking to him and I said, Dad, like, could you take us to a Lakers game? And I didn't get it, but he said, what are you talking about? Like, you want me to work? And I thought, no, I want you to take me to like a nice thing, like you and me. But it made me realize that when he was going to the clubs and going to the Lakers games, do you think that was work for him? Like going out? Or?
I never thought about it like that, but it was probably to keep up his appearances and to stay in the limelight and be relevant, and especially before the show. And then when the show was filming, it was also for not so much the Lakers game, but things like that for the show. And so yeah, I think that being on the jumbo screen at the Lakers game is a pretty big deal, that Hef's there with all his girls, and we're in Jerry Buss's box, and, it's a thing.
And you do the kiss me cam.
Always.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like he probably would have preferred to just stay home.
Yeah, he was very much a person where you had to I kind of had to do what he wanted to do. There was no like, hey, let's watch Finding Nemo together. It was like, hey, let's play backgammon, because he likes backgammon, and he's going to move the pieces for me, even though I know how to move the pieces for myself. And he's going to play the game really poorly, even though I play a little bit better. And I had to show up around his schedule.
Yeah.
And I was upset about that at first, but now I come at it with a little more empathy, that there are some people who need that, and it felt like he needed that. Yeah.
Loved to play games. So we had, obviously he played backgammon a lot, and all day Sundays he would sit out by the pool and just play backgammon with his friends or with you or whoever wanted to play with him. But we'd also have game night in the house, and it started out as Monopoly night, and we'd do it up in my room. We'd set up the Monopoly. He had a custom Monopoly table. F's face was on the money. It was like little Playboy Mansions instead of hotels. Like the whole thing was so cool. If there's one thing I could have gotten in the auction, I want the Monopoly table.
I could go on about that after, but what I'm thinking about all of this, as I'm in a podcast space and thinking about how to do this the best way, and I'm thinking about my father playing games and playing Monopoly, and you'd think that this icon who built a brand that rules the world. He didn't care about winning. He never thought about what's the best strategy for me to beat these girls.
He absolutely cared about winning.
Okay.
He was all about winning.
Okay.
He was gonna win.
Okay.
And he was a stickler about the rules too. Like, oh my gosh, in Uno, oh my gosh, I don't even remember what the rule was that got like skipped or met, like I don't know what it was, but he was like, you can't do that, you can't do that. And then in Clue, I got my head bit off one time because we're playing Clue and I was Miss Scarlet, and I always like to say when I'm playing Clue, so I like my little marker, that's me, I'm Miss Scarlet. So I'd be like, okay, so I think I did it in the dining room with the candlestick. And he's like, what do you mean you think you did it? And I'm like, I did it I'm Miss Scarlet, so I did it in the dining room with the candlestick. Well, that's Miss Scarlet. That's not you. And I'm like, no, I know, but I'm Miss Scarlet. And he would get so mad and said I wasn't allowed to do that.
Like, so did you have to like play Miss Scarlet? Like,
so I was like, I had to say Miss Scarlet is in the dining room. He didn't like it that I said I was in the dining room.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, but I am Miss Scarlet.
It's so interesting because when you think of the life at the mansion, you think of this wild party scene, but the stories I'm hearing sound so traditional. It's so cool to hear about the inside look at it.
Day-to-day stuff, it was pretty, like, it's very tame at the mansion. The parties would get a little bit more crazy. I've heard stories. I really never saw anything too crazy, but also we were in Hef's area and there's security, so we weren't really just out in the midst of the party. But there were other events that took place there that would get pretty wild. And then there were other decades, obviously I wasn't there, where I've heard wild stories. So I don't know what was going on back then.
Do you think it tamed down with his age?
Possibly, yeah, because I know Holly and I are reviewing this book from a butler that wrote it in the late 70s, early 80s, and we're like, wait, we never, like, none of this, like, it's so different. There's things that you can tell he definitely worked there because they are still the same, like 3 of the latest Playboys laid out and like different things like that, but we're like, but everything is so different. Like, this is not the world we lived in.
I'd like to read that book because that's the number one question that I think we get is like, what was it like there? And then they're always surprised to hear that it was like a lot of watching amazing movies or something like that. It's so funny that now that he's gone, I love him and I love the movies a lot more than when he was here, and it was kind of hard navigating that Miss Scarlet type of personality. Mm-hmm. But I love black and white films. I think they're so classic and timeless. I love big band music. He had big band music playing throughout the mansion.
Time I hear Al Boley and all that stuff, mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, it takes me right back to coming down into the Great Hall mm-hmm. at the mansion.
And it's so cool that you have nostalgia built into an audience. Like, people get to see your nostalgia and share in it with you.
Yeah.
From the girls next door.
But that's why it's fun having you come on too and mm-hmm. share that too.
If there was one truth that you'd like unlocked, what do you think matters most to you in this world?
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, I would probably say, just off the top of my head, that there were many sides to Hef and living at the mansion, and not one version or one person's perspective is the full truth. Like, mm-hmm. it takes everybody's story together to kind of really show how it was and who he was. And with everybody, there's good and there's bad.